Okay, I will call this meeting to order. This is the Fairway Estates Special Services Recreation District meeting taking place on May 5th, 2026. It is 7:01 p.m. We have council members Lamb, Jacob, Shelton, Harris, and Wignall, and Chair Bobador is on the phone. We confirm that he is on the phone. Thank you.
So in this meeting, we're board members.
Oh, okay.
Alan messed up. Not your fault.
We're board members. No, that's fine. Okay, we will move into public comment. And if there is anyone here for public comment, you'll have 3 minutes to address the council on any topic. The council typically doesn't engage in any back and forth, but may address comments after the fact. Is there anyone present who would like to come up for public comment? Okay, we will move on to business items. Our first item is...
Chair, there's no one online, just to clarify.
Thank you. Okay, our item A is to accept the proposed budget for the Fairway Estates Special Recreation District for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2027. Tonight's action is simply a formal receipt of the filing for the mayor's proposed budget. This is the start of the process, and again, we have several work sessions scheduled for discussion, and we have Becky Condi here to present. Thank you.
Board, it's good to be here with you tonight. As hopefully you're aware, but to inform the residents and the public, the Fairway Estates Special Service District is a separate taxing entity from the city. And it was created to provide park and open space landscaping services to the homes and properties in that district. It's similar; those services are similar to an HOA, but instead of paying an HOA fee, they fund this services through their property tax bill on an annual basis. And thus, we get to go through this process of presenting a budget and going through the steps as required. Here's some background just to refresh everyone's memory. Back in 2023, we were preparing the budget and looking forward through our 5-year plans and determined that the fund balance would not be sustainable for that foreseeable future without an increase in the property tax rate. We met with the residents, the council, the board members reached out to the neighborhood, had a couple of different meetings, and even sent out a survey. They indicated that their preference would be to start those property tax increases in fiscal year 2025. And so we have done that for the last 2 budget years, a 10% property tax increase. And those were equivalent to about $2 per month for each of those years. So going forward in this 2027 budget, a 10% property tax increase is also again proposed to help fund those services and maintain that reserve balance. You can see here the 2026 estimated column shows that we anticipate ending the year with a reserve balance of $30,000. And even with the 10% tax increase, we are drawing that down by about $5,000 to anticipate ending fiscal year 27 at about $25,000. Over the next 5 years, with a continued 10% property tax increase, we would then need a slightly higher tax increase in those last couple of years. But we're going to watch this closely over time to see how utility costs increase, how the landscape contract increases as well. This 5-year plan is based on a 5% inflation factor for utilities, so water and the electricity to run the sprinkling systems, that sort of thing, as well as a 3% increase on the contract with our landscape provider. The impact to an average home or an average property, like I said, would only be about $2 per month. Overall, the 10% increase would be $24 on their property tax bill for the whole year. We will know certified rates mid-June, so these numbers that you're looking at are based on our best estimates of both the assessed value as well as what that taxable value discount would be for residential properties. You can see here that blue line would be our tax increase over the next few years at 10% and then jumping to just over 12. And even with that, our fund balance is dropping down. So we, like I said, we'll be watching that over time. But the residents in this area are aware that that was the plan going into this time period, and we'll continue to inform the residents there of what we see happening and what they can anticipate. So one interesting aspect of the Fairway Estates is that because they're such a small entity with revenue less than $20,000, they are exempt from the truth and taxation hearings. So it's going to be slightly different than what we do on the city basis. We intend to still announce the tax increase, and we will still have public hearings and the opportunity to hear from the residents. So tonight, as you receive this proposed budget, our next item will talk about that intent to exceed the property tax rate. Although that's not required by the new legislation, we felt it was in the best interest to be transparent to those residents and provide that information in the same format. May 12th is when you would then accept the tentative budget and set the public hearing date, which would be the following meeting of May 26th. And then in June, adopt a property tax rate once we have that final information from the county, and then adopt the annual budget as well. Are there any questions at this point?
Councilmember Harris?
I just have a quick question. Is the notice of the property tax increase that it's moving to the 10% or that it would move to the 12%?
The 10%,
The
just
10%.
just for fiscal year 2027.
Are the residents paying this aware of the bump to the 12% at year whatever it was?
It has been included in the 5-year plan in the
Okay.
budget. It hasn't been communicated specifically in that format to the residents just because we are looking at it 1 year at a time.
Got it. Thanks.
Director Anderson?
Yeah, if I could help just for you and Councilmember Harris, a few years ago, the city council held a public meeting out at Fairway Estates. It's 53 properties out by the golf course, out near where Chair Bador lives. The council went out there and met different proposals. They were given 3 different options of how they would like to try and correct the fund balance discrepancy. And we surveyed them, we took ballots from them, they voted on which one was preferred, and so we're following what they had asked for, which is a 5-year plan, I believe. And so we're in the middle of that, if that's helpful.
Thank you, Becky.
Of course.
Yes, and so I'd like to have a motion for resolution. Oh, sorry, this is not a resolution, I apologize. Okay, I move to accept the proposed budget for the Fairway Estates Special Service Recreation District for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2027.
Second.
Councilmember Lamb.
Second.
And with that, we, sorry. Is there any discussion to the motion? If there's no more discussion, Ms. Quick, can we have a vote, please?
Acting Chair Wignall,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamb,
Yes.
Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton,
Yes.
Chair Bador.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes 6-0.
Okay, we will move on to our next item, which is the FESSRD, resolution number 0.024, acknowledging the statement of intent to increase property tax in the fiscal year 2027 budget and the property tax impact schedule. We have a budget analyst, Becky Condi, here with us again.
As we just discussed in the budget, the recent changes to state code require a statement be made in public meetings at which a budget that includes a tax increase is presented. Because the Fairway Estates District is under that threshold, it is not required to do this. We are choosing to make this statement for greater transparency for those listening online or who will be impacted by this. That said, given that the district is considering a tax rate for fiscal year 2027 that is expected to exceed the certified tax rate, the proposed budget includes a property tax increase. The district is not required to hold a truth in taxation hearing in August, but the public will still have an opportunity to comment on the budget as we discussed. That public hearing is set to be scheduled for May 26th of this year. This is the information in the property tax impact schedule. It shows the proposed revenue that would be brought in by that tax change, which is $13,487, compared to the current property tax revenue of $12,261. So an additional increase in revenue to the district of $1,226. That is a 10% increase based on the previous year's revenue, which equates to about $24 to an average property holder. And that would be the annual amount. The impact that that would have on the district, it is anticipated that whether or not the property tax increase is accepted, or if you continued with that proposed tax increase, the expenditures in the budget are not going to change. We don't have any specific one item tied to that budgeted tax increase. It is solely to keep pace with inflation and maintain the reserve balances. So if the increase is not approved, the district will continue to use those fund balances and just draw those down quicker, which would ultimately mean a steeper tax increase in the future. Are there any questions about this? The public will, like we said, have an opportunity to make comment if they choose to come and offer their insights, or even online, that they will have that option as well on that public hearing date.
Councilmember Jacob?
Thank you. The utilities and other line on their budget, that's basically water, right?
It is water. It
For
is a small amount for electricity just to run
Electricity,
the
okay.
system. And there's also a $25 registration fee to remain an entity registered with the state.
This is admittedly a little bit snarky, so please be, well, tolerant of me. Where does the district buy their water from? Do they buy it from the city?
They are part of the city's water system
So they pay the city
to use
Rates.
city water.
that are not proposed to increase over the next 5 years. Fairway Estates isn't getting any bigger, yet their water expense is projected to go up every year for the next 5 years. You can't have it both ways, guys. So, okay, just
Comment accepted,
my
thank
chin.
you.
Just scratching my chin a little
Yes.
bit. The other thing I just wanted to mention, just for background, is this is Fairway Estates is a great microcosm of what happens if you don't adjust property taxes for a long time. For a long time, the property taxes we collected there were way more than they needed. The fund balance was going way up, was getting overinflated. You can never do this in a general fund because of the state restriction. But we saw that happening, or we saw that happen. We stopped, with their property tax increase, we kind of froze their property tax rates, and it started to the point where we saw coming up in future years, they were going to run out of money because their property tax revenue was staying exactly the same, but water was going up. I'll just leave that. And utility rates were going up, and landscaping rates were going up, and all these other things. Yet they were collecting the exact same amount for years and years, which for a long time was more than enough. But because those rates go up and the collection was the same, we're dipping into reserves over and over and over again. And that's what happens if you don't keep pace with price increases with your revenues. So, which is why when I start talking about water rates, when I start talking about property tax increases, I'm not talking about it because I love raising money and growing government, as people have accused me of in the past and because I'm, whatever. I really don't like putting us in a hole. That then it's a little bit painful and we do 10% increases every year for 5 years to get out of. 10% increases every year is a lot. I like 2% increases every year, 3% increases every year. It's a better way of doing things, and that goes for rates, taxes, all the other things that determine revenues. Sales taxes is the only thing that changes with inflation. Everything else, you've got to change it.
Councilmember Shelton.
I have a question about the reserves. We're using those right now to minimize the increases, right?
That's correct.
So those reserves are slowly getting smaller and smaller each year. Are we going to continue, is the idea to continue tax increases after things have balanced so that we can build up the reserves again after this period?
It depends on what we see happening over the next few years with the landscape contract and the service that's actually provided there. If for some reason the district decides to maybe zero-scape some of that area or do something like that, that would then adjust what is required to pay out, right? But yes, that fund balance, ideally, I mean, it can't go too low or it won't be sustainable to even to operate and function. But at some point, hopefully, that those lines will then intersect so that it's maintaining itself. But like Board Member Jacob said, those small increases is what's going to help keep pace with all of the costs that are coming.
What is the goal on the reserve balance? Do we want to have like a full year of operating expenses in that reserve? What's the goal level?
Right. In the general fund for the city, we are mandated by state code to have a certain percent, right? That's not the case with this special service district. And I want to say no more than 1 year of reserves. 1 year is probably sufficient. 6 months of operating revenue is probably the more ideal level, but I'll let Ms. Stick say something more.
Really, it's up
Oh,
to you.
Corbin.
It's up to you as the board for the FES to decide what the appropriate reserve level is. As staff, we'd probably recommend somewhere between 6 months to 9 months worth of reserves. We were up to 2 years worth of reserves. That was too high. That's why it's
Too
pulling
much.
down. But you see those projections getting it down to $9,000. A little on the low side for my comfort zone.
Except that, let me.
But it's
kind
pretty
of-
stable. It's a
Exactly.
small amount and it's a stable.
The only
Revenue and
infrastructure it
stable
supports
expense.
is the sprinkler system. So in essence, you're paying for the grass to be mowed and lighting, but the only maintenance item that would really like take out of reserves or that you would want a reserve level for it would be to replace a sprinkler system. So, or re-landscape or something, right? If the district says, hey, I really want a playground put into this park and it's a larger level of service than what we would provide otherwise, or we decide that that would be a district expense, that would be where they want to put reserves, right? So it's really an unusual district because the only thing is really sprinklers, so.
Did that answer enough? Thank you.
Okay, if there's no more discussion, I'll ask for a motion. Councilmember Lamb.
I move to approve resolution number 024, acknowledging the budget officer stated the proposed budget includes a proposed property tax increase and presented the property tax impact schedule.
And I'll second the motion. And if there is no more discussion, Ms. Quick, can we have a vote, please?
Board Member Harris,
Yes.
Board Member Lamb,
Yes.
Board Member Jacob,
Yes.
Acting Chair Wignall,
Yes.
Chair Bador.
Yes.
Board Member Shelton.
Yes.
Thank you. I show the motion passes 6-0.
Okay, we will move on to our final item, which is the approval of meeting minutes from September 9th, 2025, Fairway Estates Special Service Recreation District meeting.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Is there any second to the motion? I'm sorry, discussion? Okay, and Director Anderson, I apologize, we're not doing a roll call vote, or we are?
You don't have to do a roll call vote other than you have a remote member, and if anyone votes no, then you have to do a roll call. So my advice is just do a roll call vote. It's a little safer, just in case I don't expect anyone to vote no, but.
Okay, and does Ms. Quick do the roll call vote? Okay, okay, and with that, Ms. Quick, can we please get a vote?
Chair Bador,
Yes.
Board Member Jacob,
Yes.
Board Member Harris,
Yes.
Board Member Lamb,
Yes.
Acting Chair Wignall,
Yes.
Board Member Shelton.
Yes.
Thank you. I show the motion passes 6-0.
Great, and there are no more business items. I adjourn this meeting.